following is a production of the Tulare County Historical Society, an advocate for Tulare County history since 1944.
Hello, I'm Paul Ramirez with the Tulare County Historical Society. I'm so glad you could join us today as we explore one of my favorites, a hidden treasure of Tulare County, Wilma Elizabeth McDaniel. I first discovered Wilma a few years ago, intrigued by her title, The Biscuits and Gravy Poet. When I learned that Wilma's life had spanned the exact same time period as my mother, Rowena, I felt an immediate connection. Also, both were burdened with equally unconventional first names. Knowing how my mother suffered with her title and was not particularly proud of it, I wonder how Wilma had endured. I'm joined today by a native Tulare County historian and poet, Dallas Pate. She has graciously accepted the Tulare County Historical Society's request to bring to life some of Wilma's work. Dallas's family settled here in Tulare County in 1860, arriving from the state of Texas. Being born and raised in Tulare County, she is especially suited to read Wilma's words in the distinct dialect of many Southerners who immigrated here. Wilma was born December 22nd in 1918, the first year of the Spanish flu pandemic, near Stroud, Oklahoma, rural Lincoln County, a region known as the Creek Indian Nation. She was the fourth of 8 children born to Benjamin and Anna McDaniel. She was of German, Scotch, Irish, and Cherokee heritage. Being brought up as a sharecropper in a family, she knew she was fortunate to go to school and use the library at Depew and Green Ridge, Oklahoma. She began writing at age 8, utilizing the meager scraps of paper and old mail that she could find. As an 18-year-old teenager, in 1936, her family moved to California. Later, she would admit the reason her family moved from Oklahoma was because of the constant threat of an empty stomach. We drove our family west. Her poetry is a powerful blend of her experience in both her native Oklahoma and California. In 1936, Wilma wrote Goodbye to a Scarecrow. Here is Dallas Pate.
Dust boiled higher, and Banker Weston played no favorites. He could not make another loan to any sharecrop family. Now my parents understood there could be no turning back. The only way out was the way west, where Mama had family in California. I noted their expressions were solemn, their voices subdued, as they hurried to pack the Pierce Arrow. Over in the now orphaned garden, our scarecrow stood tall in Papa's coat, his broomstick arms spread wide, watching our every movement. A breeze jangled his tin armaments of sardine cans. I actually heard him laugh and speak to Papa in a gritty voice. "Thank you for the coat, Mr. Ben." Papa gave him a strange look, as if he could start crying. Then he adjusted his Stetson and picked up a box of cooking utensils.
And a year later, 1937, at age 19, Wilma wrote another poem called A Pair of Rivers. Dallas?
Everyone should have a lover, and I had 2 of them, now locked in memory. At 9, it was the lazy Cimarron with orange water and huge catfish the color of mud. At 17, I found another in far-off California, a tumbling crystal river with the holy name Merced.
Strapped with a young life of working in the fields in California's Central Valley, as well as a domestic worker and being the healthcare provider for much of her family, Wilma accumulated her literary work for 44 years in a shoebox. Wilma waited until midlife when she confronted Tom Henyon, award-winning writer and then editor of the Tulare Advanced Register newspaper. She was literally trembling when she presented him with her life's work. After careful consideration, he quickly reversed the paper's no poetry policy. Here again is Dallas Pate with Wilma Elizabeth McDaniels' Buried Treasure.
L.B. Hayes ruined his expensive shoes squashing around the autumn desolation of a sharecrop farm in Cato County. Okie boy turned 50, searching for anything that had belonged to his father when he was fighting the Great Depression. Kicked at a lump behind the caved-in cellar and uncovered a rusty Prince Albert tobacco can. Stowed it away as he would a saint's bones in his Lincoln Continental and headed back to Bakersfield.
Thank you. When I listen to Dallas, I'm struck by Wilma's meager use of words that are so bold but so eloquent. For me, being raised around cattle ranchers and farmers, I was astonished to find myself in tears when I first read her work. Because Wilma spent her life around working men and women, it was with insight and ease that she wrote about the diverse cultures here in Tulare County. Among her friends, she was proud to include Portuguese, Armenians, Mexicans, Native Americans, and especially her colleagues in the secular Franciscan order. Born in Oklahoma's Baptist Bible Belt, she was unique in that she devoutly followed the life of St. Francis of Assisi. Here again is Dallas Pate with Wilma's As Far As I Am.
Poor as I am, hard as I try, I still remain so far from the way of Francis. So bound up in my little way, even on this last lap, holding a hand of pennies.
Later in life, Wilma would meet with publishing success and has written over 50 books of poetry, including The Carousel Would Haunt Me. Here is Dallas Pate's reading of The Carousel Would Haunt Me.
Mooney's Grove is in my blood like hemoglobin. I suppose that I would become anemic if the county barred me, saying, you can't return to walk these paths and watch woodpeckers working upside down, tamping acorns into oaks so tight boys can't pry them out. This would waste the bread I always saved to feed the ducks, not to mention admiration for peacocks who have a holy pride in the finery God gave to them. The carousel would haunt me as its tunes turned in my brain on little painted horses, round and round again.
Thank you, Dallas. I have my favorite. I wonder if you could share with us some of yours.
Sure, I would love to. Changes of 1936. Poor girl with Oklahoma straw braided in your hair. Forget back there. The dark blue calls of whippoorwills, slow purpling skies of warning. Here is here. California night falls instantly, draws a black curtain over vineyards. Not a single firefly will light your way home. First spring in California, 1936. The Okies wrapped their cold dreams in army blankets and patchwork quilts and slept away the foggy winter nights of 1935. From doorways of tents and hasty shacks, now and then a boxcar, they watched for spring as they would watch for the second coming of Christ, and saw the valley change from skim milk blue, still needing sweaters, to palest green that filled their eyes with hope. As they waited for odd jobs, the valley burst forth with one imperial color. Poppies flung their gold over acres of sand, like all the bankers in California gone raving mad. Women wept in wonder and hunted fruit jars to can the precious flowers, in case next year did not produce a bumper crop. Let's get some more here. Questions of 1934. The tearing up and moving out bothered the kids quite a bit, especially Jody Pinshaw. He would ask every night, Mama, where will we sleep tomorrow night? And who could blame him? That question was on the mind of every mother and father too, though men pretended it didn't upset them. They had to concentrate on that Route 66 that was running through their minds. Scouting with Playmates, 1932. 5 of us children looking for black walnuts found a cave east of Big Muddy. We saw a bed of leaves, and Loftus, being 10, said, "This here is a fox's den, as sure as you're born." We asked him, "How do you know that? Can't you see them red hairs where he has rubbed them off?" Little Quill challenged him, "You don't know everything in this world. Them red hairs could be from Ballard's old egg-sucking dog." And let's find a couple more, and then let's see. Origins. By heavy loads that bent their backs, in bitter wind that filled their mouths with sand instead of food, by dark funnel-shaped thunder that strained their ears to hear the still small voice, the Okies heeded their origins. Mother and daughter. They lived apart from the raucous crowd in their own world, resolved their own lives, and only as a last resort did they ever impose upon the Almighty.
Thank you. Sadly, Wilma passed away in 2007, age 88, and is interred at Tulare District Cemetery off Blackstone Avenue. In time, recognition came from many of her peers. Award-winning author and PhD professor Gerald Halslam lauded Wilma Elizabeth McDaniel as arguably the finest poet to have emerged from the Dust Bowl exodus. In fact, the collective body of her work has made her the most important voice to emerge from the Dust Bowl migration. Folk singer and activist Pete Seeger proclaimed, "I only wish there were more poets like Wilma." She was designated as a Tulare Poet Laureate of Tulare County in 1984 and recognized as a national treasure by National Geographic magazine. And now, in 2020, she is being awarded Tulare County and California's first literary landmark. And now in 2020, she is being awarded Tulare County and California's first woman literary landmark. Through a groundswell of community support and with recognition from the National United for Libraries, Wilma and Tulare will now join the likes of Jack London, ranking as only one of 5 literary cornerstones in the state. As the West Coast complement to the same award she garnered in 1995 in Oklahoma, she is now, as Dr. Haslam noted, California's Walt Whitman. Dallas, could you please read me my favorite?
My pleasure, Paul. A Prince Albert Wind. He doesn't come to me on Sundays in his good serge suit and black string tie, piously carrying a Bible. Never. But put me in a Saturday town of khaki men with southwest faces and rich, slow tongues, and Papa will blow around the nearest corner on a Prince Albert Wind, carrying a little poke of candy, maybe jelly beans, and spot me with no trouble, smile, and say confidently, "Sister, you want to go eat a bowl of chili at Poor Boy's Cafe?" I will get up from the bench in front of J.C. Penney's and go meet him, as I always do.
Well, my sincere thanks to Dallas Patee for your glimpse into the life of Wilma Elizabeth McDaniel. Thank you for joining the Tulare County Historical Society as we continue to advocate for the hidden treasures of Tulare County, the men and women who make our place in the valley so enduring and unique. Thank you.
I'm Carl Switzer, inviting you to please join us and learn about our mission by visiting www.tularecountyhistoricalsociety.org.